Hello everybody, I'm Ajit K. Mishra, your course instructor for Literature and Coping Skills. I'm here again with another segment of this module. In my last lecture, I talked about mimetic desire, body dissatisfaction, and the implication of these two serious issues for eating disorders. I told you all that eating disorder is a major global problem today, and it has been so for a long time. If we do not get to know how to overcome this particular menace, we might end up contributing to it. Therefore, it's important that now we understand what eating disorder is all about, its triggers, its risk factors, and its root causes as well. In my last lecture, I started by talking about Girard's mimetic desire theory, and I also tried to connect mimetic desire with eating disorders. I also talked about how this all can be traced to the body dissatisfaction that we all probably have. Most of us learn how to move on in life with some dissatisfaction with their body parts, but there are people who cannot move on, and when that happens, they develop some serious body dissatisfaction or body image disturbances, and these dissatisfaction or disturbances lead them to eating disorders, because the only way we think we can make the body chaste or discipline the body is through eating alterations. So when that happens, these eating alterations will lead to eating disorders. So today I'm going to talk about some other aspects associated with eating disorders. So let's start. As I told you, today I'm going to focus on this particular segment, that is lecture 2 of this module. I'm going to talk about mimetic desire and the possessed body as well. How mimetic desire in fact leads us to the body which we find as if it has been possessed by certain evil spirits, certain strange and mysterious things. And when that happens, how the body responds to those issues. We'll take a look at those things. So let's start today's lecture. It's all about the body image. I hinted at this particular issue in my last lecture. Body image is a very important concept, because we all have our body images. If we do not get the right kind of image, that will promptly push us to some problems. Therefore, it's important that when a person begins to develop the body image, the person is helped to develop the right kind of or the positive body image at this stage. And interestingly enough, several researchers have found that body image formation occurs very early, as early as 3 years. So it's very important that we are awake to this particular phenomenon so that we can help people around us to come to terms of their body images quite early in their lives, so that they grow up to accept the right kind of body they have, the body that comes to them naturally. Fitness is one of the finest things that we can seek, that we can look forward to, of course. But fitness doesn't necessarily mean that we will begin to treat this body as our enemy and begin to punish this, as if this body has sinned, therefore it deserves punishment. So body image is one of the most important things that we all need to be aware of, so that we grow up with a positive body image, and we not only minimize the risk of body dissatisfaction disorder or disturbance or body image disturbance, which will promptly push us into some eating disorders as well. And together all these dissatisfaction disorders will develop to some other psychiatric issues as well, like depression, anxiety, and a variety of other things. So it's important that we learn to develop the right kind of body image. So in this particular section, I'm going to talk about body image from these perspectives. So body image is all about how I see myself or you see yourself. When I look myself in the mirror, look at my reflection, and the kind of picture that forms in my mind, if it tells me that I look good, I'm very happy with my body, I'll have no problems at all. If my reflection tells me that you're not looking good, there's some problem with your body, you need to do something about your body, that means it will lead to some body image disturbances in me. So therefore, it's important how I see myself in the mirror. So sometimes I may actually look a little flabby or chubby in the mirror, but if I accept that as my true or real body image, not the ideal body image, the actual body image, there's no problem at all. Fine, I look nice, I look good, but in most cases that doesn't happen. If there is a pimple on my face, that might disturb me. How can I go out with that pimple on my face? How will others react to my pimple? So you begin to experience anxiety. So these are some of the issues that occur the moment we look at ourselves or our reflections in the mirror. And that's the beginning of the body image. And then body image encompasses all these important things. What you believe about your own appearance. It's not about the mirror reflection. It's more about what you believe about your appearance, including your memories. Do you have bad memories of associated with your appearance? Have you ever experienced bullying, taunting, ostracizing on the basis of your appearance, which is not liked by a group of people, some others? Assumptions and generalizations. For example, this type of body is not accepted in that society. That's a generalization. How can that society determine the biological conditions of individual entities in that community? But societies do that. So there are generalizations as well. When that happens, that might also lead to problems. So it's all about what you believe about your own appearance, and how do you come to believe about your own appearance. You develop a sense of your own appearance on the basis of these things, your past experiences or your ongoing experiences. For example, your memories, your assumptions, and the generalizations. And then how you feel about your body, including your height, shape, and weight. Do you think you're overweight? You have a shorter height in comparison to a standard height prescribed for bodies in a society? If you do not have that, you might think, I do not have that right height. And then your weight, your height, your shape. Finally, how you sense and control your body as you move. When you move, do you find it comfortable to move, or do you find it absolutely uncomfortable to carry your limbs? How you physically experience or feel in your body when you move. also contributes to your body image. So all these things together contribute to our body images. Our memories, assumptions, generalizations, what I think about my height, my color, skin color, and my shape, and how I feel when I walk, when I move, when I run, when I jump. Do I feel comfortable or uncomfortable? If I feel uncomfortable, then I may say, yes, I'm overweight, I'm obese, I have to do something about it. Or I am extremely lean and thin, I have to do something about it. I have to put on some weight so that I am a little more energetic, comfortable. So it's all about how we approach the whole idea. Now that's exactly what NIDA suggests, the National Eating Disorder Association suggests. So these are some of the things that we need to take care of at the beginning when we begin to form or formulate our body images. And that brings us to the negative body image. If it's a positive body image, it will not trouble you at all, because it's going to make you happy and healthy. You'll not mind. If you're comfortable with your body, if you like your body shape, that's perfectly fine. It will create that positivity in you, and you can easily carry on with that positive body image all your life without any problems at all. Come what may, what others say will hardly matter to you. But if you develop, or if one develops negative body images at that particular body image formation stage, because that's a formative stage when we begin to develop our body images as early as 3, the age of 3. So people, humans begin to form body images. If at that stage one develops a negative body image, that is going to be a serious problem all the life for the person, and that might lead to several psychological and psychiatric conditions. So therefore it's very important that we get to know what negative body image is all about, how it develops, and what we can do to overcome that particular problem. So a negative body image involves being overly focused on comparing your size, shape, or appearance to unrealistic ideals. For example, if somebody begins to compare oneself with Barbie dolls, unrealistic ideals, Barbie dolls, then the person has a negative body image, and then the person is likely to develop some serious psychiatric conditions as well. Because we need to understand Barbie is unrealistic. That's a doll. It has been produced in certain mechanical conditions. So that's not a human figure. So that cannot be real. Even if it is real, it can be so at a huge cost. Therefore, it cannot be so real. It cannot be realistic. It is unrealistic. If a young girl begins to compare her body size, shape, or appearance with Barbie, that will lead to serious problems. And this has happened for many years. Young girls develop a tendency to compare themselves with Barbie dolls because they play with that doll and they develop that mimetic desire for that particular object. So therefore, that will lead to negative body images as well. And then if somebody holds oneself to a thin ideal or an athletic ideal, that may also cause to develop unhealthy self-talk, low self-esteem, or disordered eating patterns. So if somebody holds to the thin ideal, thin is the only form that can be, that is recognized. If one holds to this particular ideal, this particular image, then one is bound to lose one's self-esteem and engage in disordered eating. So that will lead to serious consequences as well. A negative body image also increases the risk of engaging in unhealthy lifestyle behaviors such as dieting or restrictive eating, over-exercising, and other disorder eating or weight control behaviors. This image is an indicator of such behaviors. So if you go on measuring your tummy every now and then using the inch tape, you are engaging in some of these behaviors which are not normal clinically or medically. So these are lifestyle behaviors, and these lifestyle behaviors will lead to anxiety in you, and then you will promptly engage in these activities. For example, dieting, and then over-exercising, restrictive eating, or disordered eating, and then weight control behaviors as well. So negative body image is, of course, a very, very serious problem. Some of the contributors of this problem, negative body image, are, for example, past unpleasant memories, like somebody is being teased about appearance, and then when somebody grows up in a household that puts a lot of emphasis on the right size of body and shape, and then there are parents and family members who emphasize a great deal on the body types and body shapes. They also emphasize weight control behaviors. They emphasize proper eating habits. If somebody grows up in such a family, such people may engage in some kind of lifestyle altering behaviors. And then there is a cultural factor, a cultural contributor that tells you that this is not the right kind of body, or body of the right size or shape. There is peer pressure, especially among the teens, that leads to negative body images. If somebody is not slim, the person will find it extremely difficult to find a group, to belong to a gang or a group or a peer group. So that will also lead to negative body images, because somebody might begin to think that I'm not a part of that gang because I don't have that type of body. So that will lead to severe negative body images. And then the impact of media and even well-made public health campaigns can also lead to, if they are not properly designed, if they do not adopt an inclusive approach, they might end up causing negative body image. So these are some of the contributors to negative body image. So negative body image again is generally conceptualized as a multi-dimensional construct. It has several dimensions. So to be precise, there are 3 distinct dimensions which point towards lifestyle behaviors, lifestyle changes in a person who has developed a negative body image. For example, there is a behavioral component which involves body related behaviors. For example, checking behaviors. One such example is the image. There you can see somebody keeps on checking one's body parts. There's checking behavior, that's a behavioral component. There is a perceptual component which involves the perception of body and its characteristics, especially the estimation of one's body size and weight. So if you think you're adding weight, you'll go and check your weight and then do a variety of things to curb that particular thing. So this is a perceptual component. We generally begin to believe as if I'm adding weight, putting weight. And there is a cognitive affective component as well, which involves cognitions, attitudes and feelings towards one's body. So that's exactly where people develop negative body images or positive body images, as the case may be. If my cognitions, my attitudes, my feelings towards my body are negative, I'll definitely develop a negative body image. So these are some of the factors that result in negative body image. That brings us to a very, very interesting and very important phenomenon that I call the possessed body. So mimetic desire and the possessed body. Why is the body possessed and what it is possessed of? So who possesses the body? The person who owns the body, the owner of the body, or somebody else from outside, something mysterious, something strange, something evil from outside begins to possess or begins to overwhelm and take control of this body so that we lose complete contact with this body and then we do not have any control over this body. So it's very important for us to understand the idea of possession from the religious perspective point of view as well. Possession in religious and folk traditions, as we all know, is a condition characterized by unusual behavior. That's very, very important. And a personality change that is interpreted as evidence that the person is under the direct control of an external supernatural power. So, as you see the possessed body, you can see as if there is an external agency, there is an external factor that's trying to exercise direct control over the body, and then you suddenly recoil. Because your behaviors change, your lifestyle changes, your personality changes, you suddenly experience multiple changes in yourself, in your life. And you begin to experience as if an external agency is trying to take control of your body. So that will result in unusual behavior. A person will behave in a very, very different manner. That means it may be as simple and everyday commonplace, like taking an inch tape and checking one's tummy size 10 times, 20 times, 100 times a day, every now and then. That may be a very, very unusual behavior, because the person has developed negative body image, the person has developed body dissatisfaction, and that's the reason how the body is now reacting to those images, negative body image and body dissatisfaction. So as if the body has been possessed by an external agency. So the behavioral patterns will suddenly change, they will appear to be unusual. That's why possessed body. And then there will be severe personality changes. So the person will experience very different types of personality changes in oneself. And then under the direct control of external supernatural powers. So what are these supernatural powers here when I am talking about the possessed body? Under the impact of mimetic desire, those are the supernatural powers, the mediators, the models. Can be television, can be a person, can be an object, can be anything. So those mediators and those models, they exercise a tremendous impact on the body. And that is how the body gets possessed by these powers. And if I can use the ideas of Gerard, I can very well say that he suggests that the etymology of the word deceptively suggests the anorexic has an appetite. Because when it comes to an anorexic, that means when your personality changes, where your behavior changes, and when you find yourself under the control of an external agency, you'll develop eating disorders. And when that happens, the anorexic, the word anorexia means loss of appetite or lack of appetite. But lack of appetite is not the right meaning of this word. Loss of appetite, which is a nervous loss of appetite, therefore it's called anorexia nervosa. So this nervous loss of appetite is not necessarily the right meaning of this word. That's exactly what Gerard believes. Because a person who is experiencing anorexia, most women in fact experience anorexia, a woman still wants to eat just as much as we do, and even much more, because the body of such a person is starving for quite some time. So the only problem is that they generally fear that if they eat even a bite, that will become a habit. They will never stop eating. So in other words, they would become bulimic. So, and that's the reason why the body is possessed. And that's the reason why such people never relax. Through their superhuman efforts, they have triumphed over their normal instinct, and now the spirit of unnatural thinness possesses them. And this is so complete that the notion of demonic possession suits their case better than the vocabulary of modern psychiatry. So if we go by the ideas of Gerard, we can very easily believe that the body gets possessed by this desire, this uncontrollable desire to starve it, to keep it thin, to exceed the thin ideal which is prevalent at any given time. So that's the reason why the body is possessed. And once the body is possessed, it will lead to behavioral changes, personality changes, and then it will lead to severe lifestyle alterations. And it will not lead to physiological alterations as well. It will also lead to neurobiological alterations, psychological alterations. For example, people suffering from such problems will promptly experience depression, anxiety, and several other psychiatric problems as well. So it's very, very important that we understand the very nature of eating disorders, which has such a long trail, such a huge background. Now that we have taken a sufficient look at the background, the trail itself, we are in a position to approach the idea of eating disorders. So eating disorders, as we know, is a dangerously maladaptive approach to food. It's a maladaptive approach to food. Either you eat too much or you do not eat at all. So it's highly maladaptive. So the DSM-5, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Illness of the American Psychiatric Association, in its 5th edition, the DSM-5, as it is very popularly known as now, distinguishes between 3 primary eating disorders: anorexia nervosa, AN, bulimia nervosa, BN, and binge eating disorder, BED. So, AN is characterized by intense fear of weight gain. So, sometimes it is also called the weight phobia, and a disturbed experience of one's own body weight or shape, negative body image, body dissatisfaction. They will promptly result in anorexia. BN or bulimia nervosa is characterized by recurrent episodes of binge eating, inappropriate compensatory behaviors to prevent weight gain. For example, vomiting, misuse of laxatives, or excessive exercise. Behavior change, personality change as well. Because the body is now under possession. It has been possessed by something mysterious, strange, evil even. So, and then finally, binge eating disorders are characterized by recurrent episodes of binge eating without compensatory behaviors. So, the DSM-5 has in fact listed these three as the most important and potential eating disorders. There are other eating disorders as well, as you can see very well. For example, OSFED and ARFID and UFED. There are also equally important eating disorders, but these are the three which are the major cause of the global menace involving eating disorders. So, again, if we have to look at eating disorders, we can very, strongly suggest that collectively eating disorders have the highest death rates among all mental illnesses. So, you can imagine how serious these eating disorders are. So, and in most studies, anorexia nervosa has the highest mortality rate of various eating disorders. So, the mortality rate is so high that anorexia has been treated as one of the most deadly psychiatric issues or problems, because it has a mortality rate of around 5.86, which is dramatically higher than that of schizophrenia. So you can easily imagine how serious these problems are, eating disorders, and how easily they escape our attention. So it's important that we begin to take a look at this. In order to understand the implications of eating disorders for our existence and well-being, we need to focus on the relationship between eating disorders and the brain or altered brain mechanisms, so that we can understand its neurobiological aspects as well. While most people think that the environment certainly plays, both the social and cultural environments, certainly play an important part in shaping the behaviors associated with eating disorders, contemporary findings by neuroscientists also establish the fact that eating disorders can also be located to the brain mechanisms. So these research findings are playing an important role in our understanding of the whole menace of eating disorder, and we can also hope that very soon we can find measures or help from these neurobiological researchers with the help of which we can in fact take care of these problems. Is otherwise untreatable, virtually untreatable problems, psychological disorders. So it's important that we take a look at the eating disorders and the brain mechanism. So there have been studies, especially the study that has been conducted by Kaye and others, in which they have found alterations in the serotonin system in individuals ill with anorexia nervosa. That means the serotonin system, we all know that it's our happiness neurotransmitter. It gives us a sense of happiness, a contentment, and it tells that everything is fine. So the serotonin level is altered in people who are experiencing AN or anorexia nervosa. And then the same research group also finds that people with AN or generally experience this release of dopamine in the dorsal striatum, which triggers anxiety rather than pleasure. In one of my previous lectures, I talked about how dopamine, the pleasure brain chemical, in fact, gives us a sense of pleasure. How dopamine pathways, in fact, are very closely allied with the reward mechanism of the brain. How dopamine is released in the VTA whenever we experience something pleasant, rewarding. But this particular research group has found that in people with anorexia, the release of dopamine in the dorsal striatum triggers anxiety instead of pleasure. That's very shocking, because dopamine generally triggers or releases pleasure, experiencing behaviors. But the release of dopamine in this particular part of the brain doesn't give pleasure in this case, it gives anxiety. Now that's serious, and that's why it's important that we also take a look at the neural networks, the neural circuits of eating or associated with eating disorders. So that's on the basis of their findings, Kai and his colleagues have hypothesized that starvation actually makes people with anorexia feel better by decreasing the serotonin in their brains. These anorexic people make themselves feel better because there's a behavior change, there's a personality change, everything has been altered, everything has been changed. So as the anorexics continue to starve themselves, the brain responds by increasing the number of serotonin receptors to more efficiently utilize the remaining serotonin. So in order to keep feeling better, an anorexic needs to starve himself or herself further, so thereby creating a vicious cycle of that illness. So that's why it's very, very important that we understand. When it comes to bulimia nervosa, it also leads to serious illnesses, including gastrointestinal problems, electrolyte imbalances, and cardiovascular diseases as well. Anorexia, on the other hand, can cause muscle wasting, heart and brain damage, and a variety of other problems. So, when a person with anorexia, after starving the body for a long, long time, begins to eat again, the person experiences anxiety, emotional chaos, thus making recovery extremely difficult. This happens because the anorexic has, or the anorexic's behaviors, eating behaviors, has led to some serious alterations in the brain, because of which it's not responding to pleasure activities or taste activities now. So that's why it's very important that we also understand the neural mechanisms of eating disorders. So that brings us to the positive side of this particular thing, that's eating disorder. It all began with a negative body image which led to body dissatisfaction, and then eating disorder and a few other things as well on its way. The only way to overcome this vicious cycle, this problem, is to create a positive body image. The sooner the better. If a positive body image is created at an early age, it's going to help us a lot. But there are other ways through which we can also create a positive body image, so that we do not fall into the traps of eating disorders. So, the body positivity movement, it's a very, very popular movement now, began sometime in the late 60s, has established itself as a very important movement that helps us with positive body images. So one needs to challenge how society views the body. It's not the society that has given you the body. You need to realize your body is given to you because of certain biological processes, not because of the society. Society comes next, afterwards. So your body is your possession. So you are the owner of your body. You need to accept the fact, and you need to challenge if the society begins to interfere with your body. So that's one. And then now this positivity movement also promotes the acceptance of all bodies. All bodies are equally important. There is no one particular type of body that is the predominant body type. That is the best body type. That is the canonical body type. There's no such thing. All bodies are equally important, and it's important that we all accept all body types. And then it also helps people build confidence and acceptance of their own body, because it's all about developing the confidence on your body. My body is good. I want to remain fit. I want to keep fit. So I can go for exercise, I can go for a healthy diet. That's fine. But the moment you begin to hate your body, you begin to treat your body as your enemy, then that will lead to some serious alterations. So therefore, it's very important that I must start with an acceptance of my body. Yes, this body belongs to me. Now it's my responsibility to keep this body fit and hearty, hale and strong. So I do not have to do any alterations to this body to make it fit or keep it fit. I can keep it fit in this particular shape and size only. So, and then unrealistic body standards need to be decoded. There are certain unrealistic body standards that are doing their rounds around us. We need to be very, very aware or cautious of those standards. They are unrealistic. I must know that. Even though I achieve those standards, I'll have to do so with a lot of expenses. So at a great expense, I have to. It may be, that I compromise with the quality of my life, the quality of my body type, and then achieve those standards. So that is again very, very unrealistic. So these are some of the suggestions that come to us from the body positive movement. So with this particular image, I can tell you all that we have got sweet bodies. We all have sweet bodies. All we need to do is to accept these body types, so that we do not begin to hate our bodies. We do not develop negative body images, and then we do not develop body dissatisfaction, and then we do not fall into the trap of eating disorders. But then we need to rethink something that is very, very important. That's mimetic desire. It all lies in the desire to exceed, the desire to be recognized, the desire to be liked and appreciated. So the mimetic desire is one of the biggest reasons, one of the biggest causes of this particular problem. If we can overcome the mimetic desire, if we can manage mimetic desire properly, we'll not convert our bodies into a possessed body, thereby saving this body from disaster. So with that, we come to the end of this lecture. I hope I have been able to explain eating disorders from the perspective of body dissatisfaction, body images, including negative body images, mimetic desire, possessed body, and a variety of other things. And with that in mind, when I meet you next with the next lecture, I'll be taking you to The Diet by Anne Duffy. So thank you for joining me.